Thank you so much for joining World Pharmacy Day on 25th of September. Every year, we all are celebrating this day as a World Pharmacy Day, and the theme of this year is pharmacy meeting global health needs. So we have two eminent speakers, Professor Michael Korenek from Graduate Institute of Natural Products, College of Pharmacy, Kaohsiung Medical University, Taiwan, with the topic How to Treat Allergies with Herbs, and Dr. Harshita, computational research scientist at DCRC Labs, Bhopal, MP, India, with the topic Responsible Antibiotic Use Addressing the Misuse Epidemic. So, I just want to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Harshita Tiwari. Dr. Harshita Tiwari has completed her bachelor from Kumaon University, India, and master's from Naipur, MS from Naipur, Kolkata, in 2015, and then PhD from CSIR IIIM Jammu in 2021. 22, I think. And after that, she joined Solaris Therapeutic, Austrian-based company, and now she is working as a computer science research scientist at DCRC Labs. So Dr. Harshita has a very good experience, about 11 years of experience in silico drug discovery, design and discovery. And she have a wide range of research in machine learning, molecular docking, MD simulation, network pharmacology, AI, and other fields. She also have very good hands in programming languages like Python, R, Galaxy, and she published more than 26 research and review articles in renowned art journals. And okay, so we all welcome Dr. Harshita Tiwari for today's lecture on responsible antibiotic use addressing the misuse epidemic. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining. Now, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, a very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity to talk on World Pharmacist Day. So, first of all, a very happy World Pharmacist Day to all of you. So, I am a pharmacist by my education. I did my bachelor's of pharmacy, then master's in pharmacoinformatics and PhD in pharmacoinformatics as well. So, in today's talk, I will be talking about with the title Responsible Antibiotic Use Addressing the Misuse Epidemic. Okay, so first I would start by giving you an overview of what is an antibiotic therapy. So, antibiotic therapy is the use of antibiotics to treat a bacterial infection. So, in the definition, it is clear that we are using it for the bacteria. So, what are bacteria? Bacteria are ubiquitous, mostly free living organism, often consisting of one biological cell. So, they can be good bacteria, which helps in the normal biological processes like digestion, absorption of nutrients, and they produce several vitamins and in the intestinal tracts, including folic acid, niacin, and vitamins 3, B6, and B12. So, they aiding us. They are very important for the good health of the human beings. On the other hand, bacteria can be classified as bad bacteria because they exert a bad or adverse effect in the body of the human beings by triggering diseases and promoting agents. So, there are two kinds of bacteria, good bacteria and bad bacteria. Basically, we use antibiotics to kill the bad bacteria which are harmful for our health. Antibiotics can either kill the bacteria or attenuate their growth. So, antibiotics can be bacteriostatic or bacteriocytic. So, talking about the bad bacteria can be divided into the different priority labels as per the World Health Organization WHO. In 2024, the World Health Organization has classified these bacteria into three groups. First is the critical group, second is the high group, and third is the medium group. So critical groups are the kingdom or the classes of the bacteria which are basically resistant to the last resort antibiotics as well. So it contains the group of enterobacterials and the acinetobacter baumannii. Then high priorities, they are basically resistant to most of the antibiotics. And they include Salmonella typhi, Shigella, Enterobacter, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, non-typhocidal Salmonella, Neisseria gonorrhoeae, Staphylococcus aureus. Then the medium group, which can be treated with the antibiotics, but have some resistance to the existing antibiotics, such as group A Streptococci, Streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae, and group B Streptococci. So based on this, we can see the which bacteria are very dangerous for the human health. Basically, the group consisting of the critical group and the high group. Then why this antibiotic resistance is very crucial to address? Because as per the WHO, it is estimated that this antimicrobial resistance AMR is killing 5 million people every year globally, which is a very huge number. And they have speculated that this number will increase to 10 million by 2050. So, there will be double deaths by the antimicrobial resistance, and this number is very high in the African as well as the Asian country consisting of China and India. Antibiotic resistance. It is not only a global concern for the human health, but it also encompasses or it also puts some pressure to the overall economic development of a country, because it increases the overall healthcare cost, so that the healthcare cost increases and the development of the GDP and the socio-economic burden to the healthcare system increases. Therefore, it is a multifactorial factor which is very urgent to be addressed. Then, now I will talk how these antibiotics are targeting the microbes. So, antibiotics can be used or can be target the bacterial cell by different ways. Like they can inhibit the cell wall of the bacteria. They can inhibit the basic physiological processes such as DNA synthesis, RNA synthesis. They can disrupt the plasma membrane, ribosomes, and the metabolic pathways to the bacterial cell, and these all are very important for the survival of the bacterial cells. So when how can the bacteria develop resistance to these antibiotics? So antibiotic resistance can happen when these germs develop the ability to defeat the drug designed to kill them. So what the pathogens or the bacteria cell do, they just find out a way to surpass these different mechanism. So suppose a antibiotic which is killing which is targeting a particular target on the cell wall synthesis pathway, so bacteria will find out a way so that it can surpass that target, so that the antibiotic will not kill that bacteria. So that's how they defeat the antibiotic. Then another thing is that antibiotic resistant, it doesn't depend on any kind of people. So it can affect a person at any age of life. It can affect any person, which even if it works on the healthcare, veterinary, or agriculture. So it can affect anyone in this world. So this makes it world's most urgent public health problems, which needs to be addressed. Then they apart from that, it there are certain kind of these are the different mechanisms which is responsible for the antibiotic resistance, like restricted access to the antibiotic. So get rid of the antibiotic or the antifungals, change or destroy the antibiotics like beta lactamase, change the target of the antibiotic and the antifungals, bypass the effect of the antibiotics. So these are the different resistant mechanism by which antibiotics bacterial develop resistance to the existing antibiotics. Then there is a term known as a natural selection of the resistant bacteria. So suppose we have a population of the bacteria in which, as you can see in this diagram, there are orange and the brown cells, bacterial cells. So these all orange cells are non-resistant bacteria. While these brown cells, these represent the group of the resistant bacteria. So when we give the antibiotics, most of the non-resistant bacteria get killed by the antibiotics. But these cells, like resistance bacteria, they survived, or they are not affected by the antibiotics. And once they survived after taking antibiotics as well, they grow their colonies, and these resistance bacteria are now able to circulate among the populations. So this natural selection, like the ability of selection of the nature of the resistant bacteria over the non-resistant bacteria, give rise to the population of the antibiotic resistance bacteria and leads to the spread of the antimicrobial or antibiotic resistance. So apart from that natural selection, there can be a different kind of mechanism as well, like how higher number of bacteria, a few of them are resistant to antibiotics, like natural selection. Then antibiotics killing bacteria cause the illness as well as good bacteria protecting the body from the infection. So this is the diagram which represent the natural selection phenomena. And apart from that, the resistance bacteria, like they can directly transfer their resistant gene from one bacteria to another bacteria. So there is an like indirect as well as a direct transfer of the resistance involved when we talk about the antibiotic resistance. Then, what are the different causes of the antibiotic resistance? So, one of the common cause is the overprescription of the antibiotics. So, it is simply the prescription of the antibiotics when we don't need the antibiotics, which the infection which like in the normal situation like fever, or in the common infections which can be treated with the commonly used antibiotics, but we prescribe the second or third generation of the antibiotic to treat the non-resistance infections. So this can lead to the antibiotic resistance. Then patients are not finishing their treatments. So then what happens when a doctor prescribe an antibiotic for a particular time period, like for the 5 days, but during these days, like 2 or 3 days, patient started to feel better. They stop the use of the antibiotic, so they do not like complete their course. So this leads to the resistance to the origin of the resistant bacteria and leads to the antibiotic resistance. This is a very common phenomena which takes place in the anti-tubercular drug therapy. Then overuse of the antibiotics in livestock and the fish farm. So when we give the antibiotics to the animals or the livestock and the fish farming, they leads to the development of the resistant bacteria. And when the human subject consume these product, this leads to the origin of the resistance bacteria. Then poor infection control in the hospital and the clinics. This leads to the development of the clinical infections, and also it leads to the it super infections or the superbugs arises due to the poor infection control in the hospitals and the clinic. Then lack of the hygiene and the poor sanitation. So it is very important to wash our hands or to keep proper sanitation to check the spread of the antibiotic resistance among the to check the antimicrobial resistance bacteria. Then lack of the new antibiotic being developed. So it is a very major challenge, because despite of the huge despite the huge uh, um, despite the huge efforts of the scientific community, the development of the new antibiotics is very low. So all the antibiotics which even enters the clinical trial phase 1, they just got rejected in the higher clinical trials. So the rate of the new antibiotics is very low. Then another thing is that prevent the over the counter sale of the antibiotics. So in the low income in the low economic country, it is a very poor practice to use the antibiotics as an OTC or the over the counter drugs. So as per the FDA, there is no antibiotics or antibiotics available to be purchased over the counter. Okay, only the antibiotics which can be used to treat the topical for some of the eye infections or the ear infections, and which can be used externally or topically. They can be sold as an OTC drugs, such as neosporin, polysporin, in the proactive. Then another bad practice when we deal with the common flu or the viral infection, people what generally do, they try to use the antibacterial drugs to treat the viral infections. So the first thing we need to keep in mind that these antibacterials are not intended to treat the viral infections. Okay, and the use of these antibacterial to treat the viral infections or the flu leads to the antibiotic resistance. Then antibiotics, overuse of the antibiotics. If we will not use the safe practices, it will lead us all of us to the it will lead all of us to the grave danger. Okay, so we need to uh, check all these things, and we should avoid the overuse and the misuse of the antibiotics. So we can help to reduce the antibiotic resistance by by proper uses of the antibiotics, not to take the antibiotics from the OTC drug as an OTC drugs, to create the proper sanitation, so that we can decrease the socio-economic burden of these antibiotic microbes. And this is an example of how the antibiotic resistance spreads from livestock and from the human beings. So suppose the animals get the antibiotics and develop resistance bacteria in their guts, then drug resistant bacteria can remain on the meat for the animals. When not handled or cooked properly, the bacteria can spread to the humans. So it is very important that if we will use the animal product, we need to cook them very thoroughly for a particular temperature, so that it might kill the resistance bacteria microbes from the animal product. Okay, then uh, 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 then these resistance bacteria, if you will take this infected meat from the animals, it enters to the human subject. Okay, or sometimes what happens, fertilizers of water containing animal feces and drug resistant bacteria is used for the food crops. So we use the cow dung or the other product as a manure. So if it contains the resistance bacteria, and we use this for to grow the food crops, and we will not wash our vegetables properly, the drug resistance bacteria can come to the human body with the food. So one thing is that we by consuming the infected food, either from the animal sources or the plant sources, we can get the drug resistance bacteria. Then another thing is that we can get the antibiotic resistance bacteria directly from the humans. Suppose George is a person which got antibiotic and developed the resistant bacteria in his guts. Okay, so he can spread the and he lives in if he lives in the hospital, and the medical authority doesn't take him very seriously, doesn't maintain a proper sanitization, it can spread the resistance bacteria to the healthcare professionals as well as the follow patient. Okay, or if suppose George comes to his home, and he attended a particular community function, here he can also spread the antibiotic resistance. So these are the two types. That's how the antibiotic resistance bacteria can spread among the community. Then there are certain kind of strategies which can be used to decrease the antimicrobial resistance. So one is the strengthening the regulatory oversight of the antibiotics used in the human and animals if antibiotic production and the disposal. Then increasing the investment in the healthcare infrastructure, including diagnostic facilities. So it is very common that we can get the infection from the diagnostic facilities. So the disposal of these diagnostic waste is very important to check the antibiotic resistance. Then implementing public education campaigns to raise awareness of AMR and promote the appropriate use of the antibiotics. So in the poorer or the income country, people are not that educated according to the antibiotics uses of the antibiotics. So they need to get educated by the public or the NGOs so that they can get awareness about the antibiotics. Then improve surveillance of the AMR in both private and public healthcare system to understand and address this issue better. Fostering collaboration between the private and public sector to share best practices and resources for the combating AMRs. So, if I'll talk from the perspective of a researcher, so since the success rate of the of finding a new antibiotic is very low, so the investment from the public private research institute or the pharma companies is very low in this sector. So we need to increase the collaboration between the public and the private institutions so that we can come up with the strategies to combat the AMS. Then urban strategies may need to be focused more on reducing pharmaceutical pollutions and overprescription of the antibiotics. Rural strategies may need to focus on improving access to the quality healthcare and education about appropriate antibiotic use, promoting research and development of new antibiotics and alternative treatment for the bacterial infection, collaborating with the international partners to share best practices and coordinate efforts to tackle AMR. So all these strategies can be used to tackle the antimicrobial resistance. Then these are other different factors which contribute to the antimicrobial resistance, which I have already discussed in my previous slides. Then, with all this information, I would like to stop my presentation by saying that we need to stop the misuse of the antibiotics. We need to have some responsible behavior because, like coronavirus pandemic just passed 1 or 2 years ago, the next pandemic or endemic can be from the resistance bacteria, and these bacteria are very hard to treat and leads to the death of the several people. So we need to stop the antibiotic misuse. Thank you. And lastly, we are going to, this is just an information that Drug Chemistry Research Center, we are going to start a fellowship, Swami Ramashankar Shukla Memorial Fellowship. So, so please go through our website and register through this link so that you can get the benefit of this fellowship. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harshita, for wonderful presentation. And